Is Danny there?
Hi.
Hello.
Where are
How
you?
you
I think
doing?
you're
We
on
can
my
hear
other
you.
screen. Hang on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there
Yes.
you are. You're like
I
the most
literally
intense
did-
close-up.
Yeah. Yeah, I have problems with the audio.
Oh, where are you?
I come from Chile,
Oh, perfect.
like
I love it.
south, far
Yeah,
south.
south of here. It's slightly south. If I get on the Harbor Freeway and keep going.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, I have a question
Yeah.
that is the mother of all our questions as a fandom.
Oh, really?
Hi. Hello.
Hello.
Where are
How
you?
you
I
doing?
think you're
We
on
can
my
hear
other
you.
screen. Hang on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there
Yes.
you are. You're like
I
the most
literally
intense
did-
close-up.
Yeah. Yeah, I have problems with the audio.
Oh, where are you?
I come from Chile,
Oh, perfect.
like
I love it.
south, far
Yeah,
south.
south of here. It's slightly south. If I get on the Harbor Freeway and keep going.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, I have a question
Yeah.
that is the mother of all our questions as a fandom.
Oh, really?
Yes. That's serious.
Oh, geez.
Oh my god.
I'm scared.
I'm scared of it too.
Yeah,
Yes.
me too.
When will you release the Snyder Cut?
There it is.
I mean, I can't show the movie right now, because it's still a little bit to do. But I mean, there is this. I have this. I don't know if this is helpful. See that?
Oh,
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my
Wow.
god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Is this
Sorry for the-
stereo?
Very nice. Get the hell out of here. Oh my god.
oh my god.
Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center, the place to be, where comic books and wrestling collide magically. Movies, TV shows, and pop culture we share. Get ready to rock, we're here to take you there. From superheroes to aliens in outer space, we've got the latest news and reviews in our embrace. Turn on your screen, let the neon lights glow. We'll take you back to the 80s. Let's rock and roll. Sci-Fi Center, where the legends come alive. Get ready to
4 years ago today. Let me change the background since I.
Oh, watching that video just brings back memories.
Yeah, 4 years ago today, that happened. By the way, guys, changing plans. This was originally going to take place 11:30 Pacific time, but I did not realize until after the show where we got together that Brad would not be able to make that, so it would be kind of shitty to not include him in that.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get him started. He's got to go do his thing. I haven't slept very much since the last time you saw me, so I'm going to go back. But I'm going to get you guys started, and then I'm going to come back around 11:30, and then I'll wrap the show up for everybody. But basically, all this is just a get together. I did not want to do nothing to commemorate today, so we're going to do a little something. It's not our usual show. We're going to do a lot of talking and things like that, but at the same time, it's something. I mean, it's something to not memorialize because nobody died, but to commemorate today, commemorate the moment at least. Like I said, it happened around the time that we were originally going to be scheduled to do this. For those of you who weren't there, it happened during a Vero screening of Man of Steel, and at the end of that screening, he bought on Henry Cavill. Once he bought on Henry Cavill, you pretty much knew something was going on. Didn't know exactly what, but a lot of people were in the know. But I had been, fooled so many times, I wasn't going to believe anything until I saw it. And then when we saw it, and that was a moment there, that was a special moment. Like I said, today's conversation is literally about where you're at, how you feel about that. I'm going to let Brad has a link. He can send it to people. He can put it in the chat if he wants to bring it and talk to you guys. And then, like I said, I'll come on in about 90 minutes to wrap it up. But remember the rules is today. No trolls today. Your opinions about whether something continue, who to sell to, all that stuff, that is hard banned. The only thing we're talking about today is where you were at, how you feel, how that movie made you feel, how the announcement of the movie made you feel, and the camaraderie that like I said has built a community of which we would probably not be here talking today without. So without further ado, I'm going to hand the chat and the show over to Brad, and you have a fun 90 minutes, and I'll see you at about 11:30.
All right, see you, man. All right, so I'm flying solo for a little bit here, guys. All right, so welcome to Sci-Fi Center, 4-year anniversary of the announcement of Zack Snyder's Justice League on May 20th, 2020. And I guess to actually kind of start it off, I'll pull up the post that that's really getting some love here today, the one that I did just after midnight last night, kind of commemorating my feelings on it, because this really does encapsulate how a lot of us look back on this, and definitely the state of affairs in the world. I posted the announcement poster, and May 20th, 2020, the whole world was going to hell all around us. But all it took was one image to make it one of the happiest days of many, many people's lives, including mine. Yeah, that pretty well that's something that captures it, because looking back on that, of course, we were in the early, we were like 2 months into COVID at that point. I mean, stuff was locked down. We were all socially distanced, isolated, locked inside. We didn't know where this was going to go. We didn't know where life was headed, where the world was headed. Everything was just going to hell in a handbasket all around us. And then, just in one fell swoop, this news arrives and just brings a smile to so many people. Not even brings a smile to people's faces. It was an uplifting moment, in so many people's lives, because of the struggle and toil and everything that had to go into making this happen that day. As far as where you were kind of thing, a lot of people were probably inside it, but I think by that point, we somewhat had adapted. We were able to kind of go out in the world with masks on and things like that, but still it was very restrictive, very scary. We didn't know what was going to be happening in the near future. Well, we got this news, and it was just, like I said, one of the happiest of my life and many, many, many people's lives. And yeah, I'll kind of just kind of go through where I was personally, and I'll kind of open up in the chat. And I think William said he put the link in the chat. Oh, you had okay. I'll put the link in the chat in a minute here if anybody wants to come on and kind of reminisce themselves. But yeah, where I was, I mean, nothing too extraordinary. I mean, I was it was just was getting some writing done that day, and knew the watch party was coming. It was announced, I think, a couple days, a week, 5 days, something like that beforehand. And at that point, of course, we had already had the November 2017, the big Twitter event that the fandom really kind of rallied around to push the release of Snyder Cut hashtag, which that really, that made a lot of fireworks that day. And then we were all just kind of waiting around. So we pushed this thing, to the zenith. We pushed it past the summit, and all we could do at that point was just wait and see, was this it? Did we finally get across the finish line? And then, of course, COVID lands in March, so we're dealing with that. We're dealing with the impact of that, and then around early to around early May, you start seeing on social media, and I certainly saw this too. You start getting little hints from people who got their ear to the ground that, okay, maybe something's finally happening here. Maybe this is actually going to become a reality. And it just kept getting, kept percolating, kept getting more and more real. And then, with going back to what William said about in the lead up to it. I mean, for a lot of people, because I would say probably like 3-4 days in advance, a lot of people really felt like the writing, including me, felt like the writing was on the wall, because just the talk was just everywhere that, oh, something's going to happen really soon. But yeah, at the same time, we were all, of course, because we had been, let down previously, we, we're still having to kind of measure that with like, okay, but let's not get our hopes so far up that they're, it's going to feel like getting our heart ripped out. Nothing happens. So yeah, I'm at home. I'm watching the watch party that day, and kind of getting work done in the middle of that. Between Man of Steel and whatnot, because we're playing the movie. I mean, I've seen Man of Steel, God knows how many times by this point, but of course, seeing with Zack Snyder's commentary once, that made a whole different experience. And then once Henry Cavill showed up, then I mean, my heart skipped a beat. I'm sure a lot of people's did. And that's when everybody knew, okay, something is definitely about to happen here. And I always got a kick out of the fact that he had the mustache. I don't think anyone's ever officially said whether Zack put him, asked him to do that, or whether Henry just did that of his own volition. I'm inclined to think it was the latter. I think probably Henry just kind of, I'm going to have a little fun with this. So he grew out the mustache and came on. And of course, of course, we got the question popped, and everybody's, just sitting on pins and needles, like, okay, this is it. Zack kind of handed it to Henry, and he, and William didn't show the answer, and I don't have it verbatim. We would need to play it again, but Henry talked about, his, just appreciation for being in the role, and, everything that, that Superman means to him. And he, kind of wrapped it up with, I would love to see a version of Justice League that doesn't have, the jacked up mustache face. And then he tells Zack, I reckon you should show it. And everybody's like, what's it? And then there's that. So, yeah. And then the rest of that day, I mean, I could not have been in a better mood the rest of that day. That was Nirvana that day. I mean, I as soon as it wrapped up, I mean, I kind of got in the car and just sort of took a drive, because I needed to, because I wasn't going to be able to think straight for at least an hour after that. And yeah, it didn't even matter to me whatsoever. I had to, put on a mask and socially distance continuously. I was just walking on air. It was just the happiest I had been in a long, long, long time. And I know a lot of people, feel that way too. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the chat for anybody who might want to come on and share their story. But otherwise, also, please feel free to just go ahead and kind of share where you were and what your reaction and all that was in the comments too. Let me go ahead and get the link in the chat though. Just bear with me a second here, guys. Okay, link is in the chat right there. All right, but otherwise, yes, that's kind of my story. That's the cliff notes of it. But yeah, anybody else, if you want to jump on, share your story or share it in the comments. We're here to just take a trip down memory lane about where we were, how we were feeling, just all that good stuff. Okay, and we already got some guys coming on, so it's a lot of you.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Okay.
Hey, RJ. Hey, Brad. Honestly,
Hello.
could I give you my perspective from a person who wasn't really like into the DCEU at that point?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, when I saw the announcement, I was excited, but people hyping it up so much, I was trying to temper my excitement because people were making this movie out to be the what's it called? The greatest movie and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I wanted to temper my excitement and not get my hopes up and then the movie disappoint me and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So can you understand my perspective from a person who's not a Zack Snyder fan or not really a DCEU fan?
Well, that's something actually kind of like hearing too for people who are a little bit more on the outside, and then when they heard the news and how they respond to the news, and of course how they responded once they saw actually saw the movie. And we lost a lot of you, so it said I think he's having like a mic or camera issue, so hope that should get resolved pretty soon. But yeah, I like hearing from people who are again a little bit more on the periphery and
the issue with that, issue with like the hype around the Justice League, the hype around the Justice League, the Zack Snyder's Justice League was so high that people expected it to be such a good movie when it didn't do that well on streaming. When they released it on streaming, people panicked. Like a lot of even the fans of the movie were panicking, thought the movie wasn't as good. Like even hardcore fans thought the movie wasn't as good as they thought it was. And like, do you agree, Brad, that people start panicking when there wasn't a lot of views on the movie? And
well,
if
we
there
never
was
really
views, it was negative.
Well, there were views on the movie, and not only that too. I don't think the streaming release, everything was being released on streaming at the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's that's a whole other conversation. But I mean, the main thing is about we're kind of zeroing in on today is just the announcement and the news of how everybody felt, when it came about, and so, but you were a little bit more on the outside of that because you hadn't
I was trying to as a person who is not further into the DCU like you guys were, I was trying to temper my excitement because the hype around this movie was so crazy even before the announcement that I didn't want to disappoint myself and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I started getting to know about the whole Snyder news once back in 2019 when everyone started talking about it. That's when I started to know about a lot of this stuff was going on, that there actually was of a cutout there. But I do want to ask you, Brad, like, did you ever think it was ever going to happen though at one point, or did you think it was going to be like a Donald cut situation, like it would have happened like in years to come?
That's an interesting question because I was definitely part of the fandom that was actively campaigning for it, and of course I eventually ended up in a position where I was I was covering it in a journalistic capacity for Screen Rant. So I would say, looking back, if you ask me like back then versus what you asked me now, what I was thinking, I think probably at the time I wasn't even necessarily like thinking like this. I don't know.
Careful, Brad. You're gonna get yourself in trouble here.
I don't. I don't think I was thinking it was going to be a Donner cut situation, but I don't think I did. I think probably there were definitely, and I think probably a lot of people would probably be more willing to admit this themselves now. That I think probably
I thought it was
internally
an April Fool's joke. Honestly, for me, I thought, as a person from the outside in, I thought that whole announcement, in the back of my mind, I thought it was an April Fool's joke. Like the whole time, I didn't believe it at first. Like, did you guys, as Snyder Cut fans, think it was an April Fool's joke before you felt it was real?
Not
It
once.
was made
only the people with the outside in perspective are the ones who thought that. People who are true Zack Snyder fans didn't think that one bit. Not one.
I'll be right back, guys.
Okay, so like for me, for instance,
yeah, thanks for answering my question. I'm coming from the outside in. That's why, like, I thought when I saw that announcement, I thought it was just like a whole setup. It was a setup, and it was like an April Fool's joke. People making it seem like the movie was actually going to be released and stuff like that.
Well, it'd be a very late April Fool's joke.
Well, all I can say is if it was grown ass adults, acting like that, well then shame on them, because you're grown. Well, we're not children here. We are adults.
No, I'm an adult. No, I'm an adult. My perspective.
This is not on you, Anthony. No. This is not on you, Anthony. Don't be bothered by the way I talk. This is how.
But you're kind of breaking up there, Charles.
You're going in and out, Charles.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, man.
You've got lagging situation.
You're doing that. You're going under a tunnel, dude.
Personal. Forget about all of that. Think about the people. Okay, think about who Zack is as a person. Forget about his movies for a second. Can you honestly say that he deserved all of the shit that he got simply for making a film that somebody didn't like? Did he deserve all that?
No.
Forget the type of tone and the type of movies you like and what style of movies you like, James Gunn or Zack Snyder or whatever. Forget all of that. The man, the person of who he is, AFSP, adopting children as part of his family, lost one of those kids. Did he deserve all of that shit that he got for making a film that somebody didn't like, and a couple of bloggers decided they wanted to get online and talk shit about it?
But
it's a simple yes or
no
no
that
question.
was when
Did he deserve that?
But we're not going to focus on.
And this question is for the people who don't like Zack Snyder. This is the question. This is a question for people who aren't Zack Snyder fans. Did he deserve all of that vitriol?
I don't think.
Well, we're not going to focus on that today because that's a little bit to open to some old wounds here.
I can't hear you, Brad.
Yeah, it's on. But we're not. Just to interject here, I just want to take it back because we're not going to zero in on all that today because that's just opens a lot of old wounds.
Oh no.
We want to keep it on
Brad, you jumped off a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
And I asked, when you guys first saw the announcement, as a person from the outside in, I know hardcore Zack Snyder fans, but didn't think it. There was even some people in the fan base thinking that it was an April Fool's joke, like it wasn't real at first.
I don't think the fan base thought that way.
Like
I never thought. Yeah,
that's beforehand. Yeah.
So like for me, for instance, right? When I heard the announcement, I was over the moon because I got to see another Zack Snyder film. B, it was like I was doing a collab with someone, and we couldn't believe our eyes that WB are actually doing the black suited Superman suit because we're huge Superman fans. So for us, it was like Henry's coming back to do, we get to see that his original version of Zack Snyder's version of Justice League, and to see his portrayal of Superman again. and I was really like I didn't go to the Man of Steel watch party, but I saw the the whole what's it called, Vero thing online. Like there was a thing on YouTube. I watched that, and when he announced that, I was just like, wow. So but for me it was like I was celebrating and I was really excited, and like I just I felt really like the butterflies effect was there. It was like I was just like, wow, I can't believe
I
we're
have a
going.
few friends who are hardcore Zack Snyder fans, and like I have a few friends and their acquaintances that are Zack Snyder fans, and when they saw this announcement, they brushed it off. They brushed it off like they felt it wasn't real at first. Like as Zack Snyder fans, they felt it wasn't real because of the hype around trying to get the movie released. They thought it was never going to happen. That's where the question comes from, and stuff like that perspective comes from, because I have a lot of friends and acquaintances who are Snyder fans. When they saw the announcement, finally they believed it. But when they first all the all the build up to it, they never thought it was going to happen. Like so, they just gave up. Like the and when they
Yeah.
saw it, can you
Well, yeah,
understand where that perspective comes from?
yeah, I can.
Yeah.
Well, because I mean, it was definitely an uphill battle. I mean, it was we had, I mean, just getting people, just getting like
Well, didn't WB at one point said no at one point? Didn't they like
yeah.
deny that first?
Well,
And
they
then
said
Well,
no at many points. But
Hamada said no.
Well, it wasn't even just a matter of saying no. It was a matter of like saying like this, what you're asking for isn't even real. For so long that was the that
well,
was
and
kind
we
of
can all thank AT&T for that, right? And
well,
Jason
no,
Kewell,
that's what I was gonna bring up though. It's just like the stars aligned for it to really happen, and this is one of the benefits. Like, well, probably one of like maybe one or two benefits of the pandemic even happening was the stars aligned to make this a reality. Because I think it would have been released no matter what. It just may have like been a Donner cut situation where it would have been way down the road. But I think the coupling of the pandemic and the Max launch really pushed it further up in the timetable to where it could be released with the what's the word for it? Like it could be released with like the spectacle and given the release that it got to where it became a big streaming event. And that was one of the benefits I think of that, where it's just like you had stars aligning in a way to where it could be a feasible release in the way that it was.
So if the pandemic never happened, would the movie have been released? Would it still
I
have
think
worked out?
I was saying I think it still would have been released. I think it just would have been down the road. I think you couple the pandemic with the launch of Max and them needing to fill in content, it just worked out for the best. That was one of the secret blessings of it all.
Well, anyway, in a lot of the reporting on it, we've seen to give everybody a little bit of a kind of a history on it. Because as soon as the announcement was made, it was like the piece, like from I think it was Boris Kidd who wrote it, dropped on THR. In fact, I as I remember it, they originally wanted to do the announcement watch party on June 14th because, of course, that coincides with the anniversary of Man of Steel. And then once the word started getting out, within the business that okay, this is going to move ahead.
Oh yeah, there were rumors of it happening, like leading up to.
Yeah, and that's why they moved up the watch party.
Well,
that's why they moved up the watch party announcement, because they wanted to we want to actually be the ones to do it. So that's why I got
up. Because if you remember, this was back in November of 2019, I want to say. That's when all the actors got on social media and put out the hashtag. Yeah. And that was really them doing their part because they knew the negotiations were happening, that the talks were actually starting.
Yeah.
Right.
RJ, what I was trying to ask RJ is, we already knew Max was happening because HBO had already announced it. Like even without the pandemic happening, would it still have been released directly on streaming, or would they have had a limited time run in theaters?
Yeah, well, no, I think they were negotiating. There was talks of it being a streaming release, but I think the pandemic basically fast tracked it a lot sooner. And I think also how do I put this? Because again, I'm trying not to get myself in trouble, but I really, But the thing is, right, is that Zack still needed about 30 to 40 million to finish up the movie, right? There was a completed work cut, but it wasn't necessarily a finished, like all the CGI is done and his entire vision is completed
Or
from
didn't have
beginning to end.
OG Steppenwolf in there yet either.
Right, yeah.
That's
There was stuff that he wanted to add and like expand upon and kind of fix up, post visual effects wise. And I think the pandemic really helped the fact that it was a cheap enough production at 30 to 40 million to where AT&T and Warner Brothers at the time felt they could spend, right? So I think no matter what, again, it would have been released down the road and on streaming. I don't think it would have been the version that we got, though, without the boost of that pandemic, because that really exacerbated the situation to where they needed something that they could put out there that was a high quality product,
That's a good point.
Well, and like talking about the money that was spent to finish it, that's something, because it ended up being the final price tag ended up being about 70 million. And one thing, I don't think this has ever like really been fully clarified. I'd really be curious because I mentioned the OG Steppenwolf design that was reintegrated into the movie, and I'd really be interested to know like what the price tag was for just for Steppenwolf. I would venture to guess he probably ate up a good 20 to 25 million of that.
Well,
money
yeah,
that
I
was
mean the
spent to
fact that
finish
they
it.
spent.
Well, there was a lot. You got to think too. All the Apocalypse stuff with Darkseid and all that hadn't been finished, hadn't been actually, done yet, and all that. It was all probably.
Was there an original design for Martian Manhunter that he, not the one that we got? Was there an original, was there an OG Martian Manhunter design? Because it did seem like the one that we saw in the movie was the one that he wanted.
I just real quick. I know Anthony, you got a lot of questions, but just to kind of keep things on course here, I know there are a few people that haven't even given their stories yet. So I thought maybe
go ahead,
Brad, if you wanted to go, or Tony.
In fact, I was actually just about to take it there. It's like anybody who hasn't kind of shared where you were
I'm
kind
not
of thing.
I'm not trying to just stop it for me. I just kind of wanted to get
Oh,
it back on
sorry
track.
about that. Sorry about that.
You mean you want to hear my thoughts on how I first got introduction to the whole Snyder Cut?
No, where were you when
like that, and like just the where you were, and like what was your response on May 20th when the news broke that it was definitely going to be happening?
Well, to be honest, I wasn't really quite surprised though, because again, like RJ said, what reading up to, like hearing the rumors and these stars hashtagging it, and then like that kind of, and then Zack showing his cut on Twitter, so that kind of made me think like, okay, maybe there's a good chance it's going to happen. I don't know. And then when it happened, I was like, all right, not surprised. So I was kind of, I was excited, but I was like, I wasn't that excited because I kind of knew it was going to happen eventually. So that's kind of where I kind of stand on it.
Okay, and I think we just lost somebody.
Another question I have: what do you think a lot of filmmakers thought about this at this point, especially from other filmmakers that's kind of dealt with that had to deal with what I'm trying to say is like, especially with some filmmakers in general, with what they had to deal with, like kind of like what Zack did, or like have some of their movies kind of butchered by the studio, like in like the editing process, but like seeing one man getting his vision shown out to the world, like I wonder how like a lot of filmmakers felt about that at that point.
Yeah, I think probably I think probably a lot of them were like really I think we're probably pretty rah. They're pretty over the moon about that themselves, because it's and a lot of directors, a lot of other filmmakers, on the November 17th day in 2019, a lot of them were tweeting in support of it. They were saying they were putting out the release of Snyder Cut hashtag. I'm trying, like, who were some examples I could think of. Actually, I did an article at the time about like celebrities who would tweeted about it. I'm just trying to think of directors who had done it offhand. I might need to read that again, but I think by and large, other filmmakers were pretty supportive of it, because other things like this have happened with other directors, maybe not on the same scale, but for somebody like get what they set out to make, get that back, and get the chance to put it out for everybody. I think other by and large other filmmakers were very supportive of that, and they'll definitely continue to be so. But Talati, I don't think we've heard from you about just kind of your like.
Well, I think he
story,
started, and
I did say that. I did say
that.
that. I was with someone at the time, with a colleague of mine at the time, where we talked about DC films and everything, and then they dropped the announcement, and we both felt like it was really cool, and at the same time, I was like really excited because as a huge Zack Snyder fan, I was like, I can't wait for the figures or the hot toys to be released, because I know when those release, it goes like hotcakes. So unfortunately I wasn't able to get it. I wasn't able to get the hot toys or the figures at the time because they got sold out instantly as soon as they announced it. So it was wow. So
and
it was. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Ben.
No,
go ahead and finish up.
No, I was going to say that it was a very, 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 really interesting moment for across the world, people's reactions, and I was like saying to one of my friends was like, dude, when this releases, I'll be sure to do a yearly thing where I have to watch Zack Snyder's Justice League. Like I have to do like a special thing for that and set a date. So like that was that's what me and my friends planned, and even when I met Jared as well, because Jared's from Comics Lead. Sorry, he's a big Zack Snyder fan, and he as well was like, he couldn't believe it. So like I'm just like, I was over the moon with the fact that we're getting more Henry, more Ben, more Gal. So
right. Well, and like where you. I think I'm pointing right, because you got to do this right. Let's hear you. Yeah. What you said there about even once it was announced, you couldn't believe it. I think that's actually a very important point too, because because I was that was very much my mindset is it's a moment where like I'm pinching you're pinching yourself, like is this real? And I liken it to, I mean, the whole analogy the Joker makes in The Dark Knight. It's like I'm a dog chasing cars. It's like I wouldn't know what to do if I caught it. Well, that's what we were as a fandom was like we're the dog that finally caught the car. We're like we're surprised we finally caught the car. And it's
like a dog,
yeah, because it's this is there have been other alternate cuts, director's cuts, things of that nature that have been released through fan campaigns and things of that sort. But I do think it's fair to say that the Snyder cut really is in terms of the size and the scope and just the footprint that it left. I do think it's fair to say, as far as like fan campaigns that achieved what they were going for, this probably is the one that is left the biggest footprint or left the biggest legacy behind it.
Well, this is still it's the biggest fan campaign to get a movie done, because even then they gave him the money, they gave him all these things, like that's not been done before, So yeah, we've had fan campaigns, but this was historic in that, like.
You
had somebody. Hold on 1 second.
Sorry. One time, guys.
You had somebody come back. Yeah. You had somebody literally like come back years after. Somebody I compare to, like Ridley Scott has a director's cut almost every other movie that he does. But they never have. He never goes back. To reshoot things and do. Like it was historic in that. A director had never been, I think in this way, like actually, have his movie taken from him like this. That type of thing had never happened, and so it was a pretty historic thing.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, like, I don't think you would ever see something like this ever happen again. I mean, some campaigns has worked, but like this is the one thing that I think the Snyders could succeed at, because there's been other campaigns to get other like director's cut out there, like the Carrie remake director's cut or the Crow City of Angels director's cut. Like all of those have had campaigns, but they never succeeded like this did. So that's one thing that this movie accomplished so well, and I don't like. And do you ever feel like that, like something like this will ever happen again?
I think probably to that point, I think everything you're talking about, like why this campaign and why this movie became what it is. I think and a lot of things I've said about in the before and the after. The one thing that makes it so unique, I think, and given it this kind of the staying power that it's had, is the circumstances of it and the specific nature of or sequence of events that led up to what it is, because
the stars aligned,
yeah, the stars, and of course I think also, if you liken this to something like the Donner Cut, I mean, like one thing that this had that the Donner Cut didn't, as far as a leveraging tool or foundation to work from, was social media. I mean, you didn't have Twitter, you didn't have Facebook, you didn't have Instagram. There are all these things, when the fan campaign for the Donner Cut was getting underway. So, the fact that, that the fandom had an apparatus to really work from and coordinate and make the push for this as public as it was, really worked in its favor. So that's one aspect of it. And then just the fact that, again, added to the circumstances of it, the fact that that it was what we saw initially was clearly so markedly different from what was marketed, and from the two movies that had led into it, that that it did provide a lightning rod for people to rally around. So you add those together, that really that really provided an environment where people could form a community around this and form like a subculture around this that it's become, and rally for this in a way that made as much noise as it did.
That's why I feel like something like the Crow City of Angels or like the Carrie remake kind of started that petition a little bit, because those were two movies that kind of got butchered in the editing room, and especially some research that what the final film came out was not what the two directors intended. That's why you had like fan campaigns of like the Crow City of Angels to get to see what was the original like Tim Pope cut of that movie. And I'm one of them. Like, I want to see what was the original intended version of the Crow City of Angels. Of course, yeah, Crow City of Angels. Will we ever get it? I don't know. But like, there was even like a fan made director's cut out there of the Crow City of Angels, and the director actually approved of it. So, but what makes this one unique is this one actually, like, despite the many petitions to do it, someone actually put the money in to actually finance it this time around.
Yeah. Well, to Brad's point, to the question that you're pondering, no, I don't think you're ever going to see anything like this ever happen again. And I think that we're very lucky that this even happened at all. Like I said, I think the stars aligned. The circumstances were right for this to be greenlit and for this to happen. I think, Jason Kilar and those at AT&T made the call because they needed the content, and the pandemic was a thing.
I mean, everyone likes to crap on.
Well, just to finish my point, there were so many factors that went into this, that, like I said, I think we were very lucky and blessed to get what we got. And I don't think you're going to see any fandom or any group be united the same way again. I mean, I don't even think the Snyder fandom is united the same way it once was back when this came out,
Yeah, absolutely.
Just the circumstances were just aligned perfectly. And I think, things have changed. The way that social media is viewed has changed in 3 years. I'm not trying to be like down about it. Just more so, I think we should just celebrate the fact that we, like, the circumstances were just so right, and we were so blessed to get what we got, because it almost was like a miracle situation in a lot of ways.
Yeah, well,
Brad,
I also want to ask him.
Brad,
go ahead, Claudia.
Brad, you got a question in the chat from Ruth, just to let you know.
Yeah, I was actually just about to bring that up because actually
and then after
very
that,
well.
Brad, if I could give my Snyder story too, I hate to be
no problem.
Oh yeah, go right. Actually, you go ahead and give yours, Austin, and I'll pull up Ruth's question.
Yeah. Okay. Well, sure. Yeah. So yeah, no, I've been following it for a while. Obviously, I was a big DC fan. I loved Man of Steel. Was on and off with Batman versus Superman, as I'm sure a lot of people know. But still, I was absolutely rooting for this and wanted this to happen, just because, I was an aspiring filmmaker that, like I said earlier, no filmmaker had really been, as we found out later, been taken away from the movie like Zack had. And so there was, and like Brad said too, when he was talking about the tweets, of celebrities and stuff, like, yeah, I think even in Hollywood there was a thing of like, okay, well, if they can do it to this guy, they can do it to any one of us. And so there's absolutely a reason to rally behind that. And of course, AFSP, interestingly enough, the whole reason I'm into the DCEU and kept up with all that was because of a personal connection. A friend of mine that we started watching Man of Steel together, and then we were supposed to go to BVS together and all the others. He ended up taking his life, I think, about a few weeks before BVS came out. And so
so sorry.
Yeah, so it's a personal thing, personal connection for me too. Like, everything that the fandom did with AFSP, I think, was, it's incredible. It's amazing. No other fandom has ever done that. No other fandom has ever stood up for that type of message, I think, and it was a really impactful, important thing. And I think that was the real, like, point and message of it, the AFSP, and letting somebody have their creative right and their creative their full creative vision brought to life.
Yeah, well, and to that point, I mean, obviously the AFSP side of the campaign, I mean, that's like, I mean, I don't have like the current tally in front of me, but I know, as of the Full Circle event last year, the fandom has raised in excess of $1 million for AFSP, and I mean, it's like you can't put a dollar value on the value of that, and of course that obviously ties into that ties into of course what Zack experienced very unfortunately with during the making of the movie with Autumn, and the fact that the fandom that so much good has been done for AFSP, as a that the AFSP is so anchored to the campaign for this movie and to the fandom ever since. It's just you can't it's a good part of the legacy that those are so inseparable, because because it was so tied to it and continues to be. And of course, we here on Sci-Fi Center, William and I, we continued that with all the watch parties and such we did between Rebel Moon 1 and 2 and all the FSP.
And Scary Movie.
Yes, Scary Movie. Yeah. Okay. You had to bring that up. But it did. We raised just over 15 grand, which we had an initial goal of $5,000, and of course we're again, relatively speaking, newcomers, and me much more so than William to the YouTube scene. So the fact that we were able to rally our community and our viewership to that to raise that amount of money that was such a godsend for us, and it's just it's a testimony to how much the fandom came out back during the campaign for the movie itself, and continues to do so to this day. That AFSP is so linked to this fandom. It's like you can't put a dollar value on that. Sorry, I'm kind of repeating myself there, but that is invaluable. That is absolutely invaluable. But now to go ahead and go to Ruth's question. Question for Brad: have you spoken about how this release brought you together with R. William and others in the community? What effects has that had in your life? A positive one. That's interesting. Well, the campaign for the movie itself, I didn't. That was not how William and I actually originally connected. That was through. I've spoken a bit about it before. It does kind of tie into a band topic, so I'm not going to go. I'm going to go ahead and I'm not going to talk about that on this stream, because again, it's like
he's gone.
I know what you're talking about. You can bring it up. It's fine.
It's for the Snyderverse story,
yeah,
right? So
it was related to. So
it's okay.
It was
under the umbrella.
It was it was about a year and about a year and a half ago now.
It was when William was still on the Point Extra rounds.
He was still simulcasting that way, I think. But yeah, I'll get to I'll kind of go a little bit more to that on their stream, because again, I will respect William's thoughts on that. But even aside, because it actually does kind of link a little bit to my origins as a budding YouTuber, because one thing I did I have mentioned elsewhere is that I was obviously somebody who was hashtagging for it during the campaign. I was of course writing a lot of articles covering it too once I started on that end of it, and but during that whole period, there were a lot of YouTubers and podcasters I was following. It was specifically people like Film Junkie, people like Chris Wong Swenson, Scott and Tim at DC Squadcast. So everybody, I just mentioned, if you're watching, got a shout out there. Those guys, I would say, all of them were kind of my main sort of vectors of sort of information, or during that whole period about whenever Zack would like drop a here's an image of Martian Manhunter, or here's like a storyboard that linked to this or that, and that really drove the fandom to just keep pushing forward. So and that did bring a lot of people together. And there were people like who I have since streamed with, that I connected with or developed some kind of relationship with during that time. And I once I started streaming on here, I had mentioned I mentioned before, but I'll go ahead and say again that during the release of Snyder Cut period, looking back on that, I said the one thing I kind of regret that I didn't get to do as part of the community during that period was I didn't really get to do any like YouTubing or podcasting because I just wasn't doing that at that point. So there were a lot of people I was following, or people who I was associated with in a variety of ways, who were doing that a lot, and I was following them, I was watching them doing that, but I just never hopped on anybody's live stream or anything of that nature. So
you didn't do any live streams until you got on with William. You hadn't done anybody.
Nope.
Oh wow.
Yeah, my YouTube life, my podcast life, all that began as of January 2023, and funnily enough, first time I was on with William, I actually was that was right when I was recovering from COVID.
Nice.
I made it 3 years. I'm very proud of that today.
I did the same thing. I made it through the pandemic and a few years after, and then of course I got it.
Yeah. So
I had it 2 times.
You had it twice. Wow.
Yep.
I got it twice too. I got it one right after the other.
So, but I feel like, Brad, like for what you're telling, it's a very positive outcome for you. Like I can get that energy feeling from you. It's like this has like been a positive, like when they announced it and you doing articles on the hashtags and talking about it. I get that feeling that you've had like a really, really positive experience.
Yeah. Well, and also kind of relating to that, another gentleman I connected with during that period, Mr. Darren Kirsch. Darren, if you're watching, shout out, man. He's the author of the book, the Snyderverse Saga, which I don't know if anybody's read that, but definitely give that a read if you haven't.
I actually read O'Connell's book.
The other one, I interviewed O'Connell and that one when that was coming out.
Sean's book really got a lot of attention because his was the first. His came first. Yeah. And he of course covered the whole thing, and then Darren came a little bit after that. And again, it was a recap. It was just it was a real good rundown of just the events
What's
of
it
it.
called?
And the Snyderverse Saga is Darren's book. And the thing about that really was interesting about that, because I interviewed Darren for that after he published it, and then he published it after the movie came out, and then I was on his podcast called Round 2, which is he kind of focused on sequels and things like that, and we reminisced on that. And the thing I found so cool about reading his book, relating to again my journalistic work covering it when I was doing that with Screen Rant, is that he would, every like major event, he would say, okay, Zack dropped this image and it blew up, or this news happened, or here's when the first SnyderCon was held, and everything that came out of that. And he would have like all the annotations from every different outlet about, okay, here's what happened, here's what this means. And I'm reading through the book, and it's like quite a few of them are articles I wrote. So I'm like, holy shit! It's like I'm a source on this story now. That's like, I never expected that to happen. So that was a real that was a real nice sort of development. Because I'm one I'm one fan of many who, was part of this. So, being a blip on that radar is just something I'm going to just cherish for the rest of my life.
Yeah, man.
But yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah, but
One thing,
go ahead, Chappie.
Yeah, no, one thing I actually thought when this movie was coming out that we were actually going to see a trend of like other directors getting their cut finally release of movies, but that sadly never really came
Well,
through.
again, because it never really happened like this. This was,
I know this was like a
studio.
circus level, but like other directors who their movies got botched up by studios to finally see their like true vision of the movie being released to the public. So
I think it either with a lot of them, the filmmakers either don't care anymore. Okay, you have somebody that maybe like Josh Trank, from Fantastic Four.
yeah, but there never was a director's
I don't
cut.
think.
Yeah,
Oh no, there was, and he's talked about it. But
yeah, but it wasn't finished. It didn't have an ending.
One time, guys. One time. Last finish.
Okay.
Yeah. Neither. Yeah, it wasn't finished, but he also talked about like he has no interest in revisiting it. He's got no. Again, I said I've given an example. Ridley Scott usually gets his director's cuts, and yeah, it's not that it was the fact that the movie was during the tragedy that we didn't know about until later. They rewrote everything, they changed everything under, and then they still released it saying it was a Zack Snyder movie, and so that was the thing that like all these types of things really hadn't happened like that before. So it was a really, I think the only other director's cuts that got attention after this was the Schumacher cut and
David Ayer.
The Ayer cut, yeah.
The Ayer cut, yes, the Ayer cut.
Yeah,
and those are also two very special situations. But I don't think you would see, like a herd of directors coming out like, hey, I want,
unless it's like a South Factory release or like a special Arrow release, then maybe like that those do like special like cut releases of films sometimes with like Arrow and like South Factory, then you can probably see it. But if they don't get the rights to it, then that means that it's probably will never happen. So
right, and yeah, Vince brings up a good point. Director's cuts, they're normally just add-ons to the DVDs,
or
Zack
like a physical media release. Or, like director's cuts are pretty common. They're supposed to be normally, at least.
Well, they're not usually
or unrated or extended cuts, whatever.
They're not usually something that has to be actively campaigned for. It's something that the studio will take it upon themselves a lot of times. Say, oh, we've got extra footage, we've got
exactly,
and it's like we'll put it out, the unrated version, the extended cut, or
something that they're gonna put more money into after the shoot is already done. So that was the special thing.
But I'm just talking about when the movie's finished, when you don't have to go back and do reshoots, then there's your chance to finally release a director's cut. Like, give it a South Factory or Arrow, then do like what was the intended version. Like Eon Flux. Like, that's not a very good movie, but I want to see what was the intended version of that film because I know that there was a better film inside there somewhere that got botched up by the studio, but I don't know if we'll ever see it. But yeah.
Yeah, well, I made the joke the other day too that Tom Green apparently has a Freddy Got Fingered extended cut, and I answered a Reddit anime about that. But it's like, okay, maybe we'll see that someday.
Well, I guess do you guys want me to tell the story for me?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, let's hear your story.
So all of 2020 is really a blur for me for obvious reasons.
Yeah, for a lot of people.
Mostly because one thing, I was in college and doing online classes, which is really stressful because there's a lot. Plus, my parents work in the healthcare system. They work in, like, my dad's a nurse practitioner and other stuff. So, like, boy, was that scary. Every day was scary because you never know when something's gonna happen, right? But so this is May 20th. So I want to say they announced the Man of Steel watch party. What was it, like 2 days before, 3 days?
Yeah, it was like 2-3 days before, something.
Was
like
it
that.
on March?
I think they might have announced it on my birthday. I can't even remember.
Really?
Yeah.
And had Zack already done the BVS watch party?
Yeah. He'd done that back in March.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much everyone kind of knew that the announcement was coming that month. I mean, everyone was talking about it at that point. It's a matter of, okay, when do they do it and how do they do it? So once the Man of Steel watch party got announced, it was more just the fact of, okay, I'm just waiting for that tweet, I'm waiting for that tweet, I'm waiting for that tweet. Then you see it, right? You get the notifications like, oh, there it is. You know,
Yeah.
it was excitement. It was jubilation. You know, it was a good feeling that day. You know, as somebody who wanted to see that cut since 2017, so I'm like, oh my god, this first just so bad.
Well,
But when did the petition first started? When after 2017, or was it back in 2018?
There's movies
18.
that with the
Alright.
hashtag. That was like the day the movie came out and you saw it.
Yeah, it was pretty much like as soon as people saw the theatrical cut, that's when they started campaigning for the Snyder cut. And
Right.
and again, the mustache was a giveaway, and that's why I
Even the Blu-ray, even when
yeah.
the Blu-ray
Yeah.
came out, people started to ban it.
But even then, you know, even then, it
I
took
still
a
have
little-
mine.
Even then, it took a little bit because, like, I agree a lot with how Dave and William both put it. Is that, like, at least for me, right? At that time, at that moment in time, we didn't have the reason we had yet to not trust WB. We had all the actors coming out saying, you know, it was okay. We had this and we had that. And so, yeah.
Well, you
I
even
think
had
we all felt
Toby
like,
Emmerich.
One
Sorry.
time, go ahead and let
Okay.
Austin finish.
Yeah.
You know, I agree with Dave and William in that it was like, okay, I know something's up here, you know, because it doesn't look like a Zack Snyder movie. It doesn't feel like a Zack Snyder movie. It doesn't, you know, having seen his past films. But it was this weird thing of like, but I don't want to, like, maybe should I try to like it? Did I miss something? You know, because if it is him, did I, you know, like, so yeah, it was until things really started coming out of like, you know, how tumultuous the production was and all this and all that type of stuff. That's when I think a lot of fans almost with a sigh of relief, you know, it was like, okay, we can campaign for another movie, you know?
Yes.
Well, it was also a blatant lie when Toby Emmerich said that, that he said that, like, when Joss Whedon was going to take
Spider-Man.
over. Oh, hey, Spider-Man.
Yo, Spidey.
What's going on, Brad? Ladia in the house. Got RJ, Anthony.
Hello.
What's up? What's up, Spidey?
Last today.
I'm all
right. What were you saying there, Chappie?
Yeah, no. What I was saying was before you guys came in, that Toby Emmerich even lied and said, like, when Joss Whedon took over, that said that it was going to be exactly like a Zack Snyder film, like nothing was going to be changed. He was going to come in to finish the movie, and he was handpicked by him. Then we see the movie. We all know that was a lie, and then as the movie came out on Blu-ray, and as people started campaigning, as Zack was starting to show a lot of his pictures of his cut on Twitter, then you start to realize, there was a better film version out there.
That kind of leads into, I have a kind of a question I've had in my mind. I'll put this out to everybody, is because, you know, you're talking about the little, you know, nuggets Zack was just dropping out on Vero period. That was just, and of course every time he did it, he just set the internet on fire. It snowballed once he did, because it started. It was like a slow drip, and then it just turned into like just a tsunami by the end of just what he was releasing, and the firestorm it created. But this is kind of an interesting question, but I thought I'd go ahead and put it to everybody. Like, what was your, as far as the teases he made, or the posts he made, or like the reveals of behind the scenes stuff or storyboards or what have you, what would you say was like the one that like really just like you saw it and it's just the most eye catching for you? And I'll go ahead and give mine first. And there is
to look some up because I don't remember it.
Oh, well, there's a reason why there's a reason why I remember this one so well. And it's not entirely because of the tease itself. It was the first one that he it was the first time he revealed look at Darkseid, when he showed the image of Darkseid on the mural. And that's why it's so fun too, like going back and watching the movie now, like, you know, being able to like point like specific like shots. You can say, okay, he posted that, and this is you could like, this is exactly the moment it was pulled from. But when he pulled out, he put up the mural of Darkseid when Wonder Woman goes into the you know, into the underground room, and sees like the whole history about the battle with Darkseid in thousands of years ago. And he posted that, and he posted it with the caption of "Bell can't be unrung," and he shared that over Thanksgiving weekend 2018. So it was actually in the lead up to Aquaman when that was coming out that he shared that. And the reason why, full disclosure, that image was kind of that did kind of seep a bit into the fandom, and I may have actually seen it a little bit early before it was released. So that day that that Zack did put it out publicly, that's where I woke up to that news like, oh, this is everywhere now. People are finally seeing it. It's going nuts. And of course, I was in an absolutely awesome mood. That I believe that was the day after Thanksgiving. That day that he put that out. And so the first what I did after that, I live really close to my old college that I went to, so I'll go there and I'll run laps, ride my bike around a lot, just exercise. And that day, as soon as he put that up, I was ecstatic. This is out there. This is going nuts. More and more people are coming aboard this train of release of Snyder Cut. So I go and take a run. When that happened, I just run around campus, and I end up spraining my ankle pretty bad. I stepped on an acorn, and my ankle just went like that. And so I rolled it, took a pretty nasty spill, scraped my.
So
my
Brad,
leg
I don't hold that thought, but you're
Yeah.
telling us right now here live in chat that between the 12-year-olds and the acorns got more points on you for kicking your ass. Is that what you're telling us?
Yeah. Well, they definitely hurt. That acorn definitely hurt me a lot worse.
That's what I'm saying. The acorns are whipping your ass more.
Because I was hobbling around for a month after that, and of course I was my car was a mile away from where that little incident happened, so I kind of had to shuffle back there very carefully. But that's part of why I remember that release of that image so well. But yeah, I did want to kind of put to everybody else
mine was the announcement that they were gonna have based on the articles I was reading, because I was a big fan of Martian Manhunter. The articles I was reading saying that he was gonna be actually introduced in the middle of the movie instead of that cutscene that we saw at the end, warning about Darkseid. He was gonna be actually in more of the movie than he actually ended up being in. So for me, as an outside looking in, because Martian Manhunter is my favorite DC character, it was the announcement that Martian Manhunter was gonna be in the movie, but not what we ended up seeing, just that warning scene at the end of the movie, but that he was going to be in the middle more of the movie than he actually ended up being.
I gotta give it up to Anthony though. He's probably the only person who's ever said that my favorite DC character is Martian Manhunter. Everybody would say Batman or Superman or something. That's a real one there, Anthony. You're unique for that one. I don't think anybody's ever said that.
I love Martian Manhunter.
He's got cool powers, but he gets people. Everybody's more famous. You know what I mean?
He's one of my favorite characters to play as in Injustice. Actually, he's one of the DLC.
Oh
characters.
yeah, he is.
Well, he's pretty awesome in Injustice.
And our Brad, what I was asking in the chat, the look that we saw of Martian Manhunter, was that the original look Zack had for him, or was there other storyboards of what he actually wanted him to look like?
You're talking about the design that he has in the movie?
Yes. Was that Zack's original plan, or was that something he had to adjust before the movie was released?
Yeah, that I couldn't tell you that, man. That's
or RJ.
The
only. Can you answer that?
Yeah. Regarding the Martian Manhunter, like the design.
Yeah, he's asking the design that's in the movie. Was that the design he always had in mind?
I mean, from what I remember, I don't think that. I knew Martian Manhunter was like what Zack wanted. He wanted that character to be in there. Same with Green Lantern. I don't know if there was ever different designs for him though. I imagine during the conceptual stage that kind of stuff changes, from final product.
No, because you guys were talking about Steppenwolf, and you said that wasn't the original. The one that we ended up seeing in the movie wasn't the original.
No,
look.
That was the original look, and then it got changed when they were kind of walking a lot of things before Zack left Justice League. The studio was still kind of saying we need to walk a lot of back.
And the fact that they cut Martian Manhunter from the movie entirely probably speaks to the fact that there probably was no other design from the one.
I would say so. Yeah, the only one as far as an image before the release of the movie, the only one I ever saw was the storyboard that Zack put out on Barrow saying where when he revealed that Swanwick was Martian Manhunter, and that wasn't even like that wasn't like an animatic or like a film scene or anything. It was just a storyboard with a little sketch of Martian Manhunter on it. It's just green dude with the blue cape and the red X. So yeah, I would say probably the version
Red
that
X is a different character, Brad.
Yeah.
No,
So the version
and they said, and RJ, were the articles I was reading bullcrap then that he was gonna be in more of the movie than he ended up being in Martian Manhunter, or like before it was released, they said that he was gonna be like in the middle of the movie, like we get introduced to him like in the middle of the movie, like Bruce and Clark have to meet him somewhere, and they're trying to convince him to join the. I can't remember where they said they have to go in a spaceship and meet him on Mars or whatever. And
no, there was never anything like that. That was like
no, not even close. Yeah.
Yeah, they were never.
So
going
what
to Mars
I was reading was
Justice
bullcrap
League.
then.
Yeah, that was bullcrap.
Most likely, yeah.
Probably.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's probably.
I love Martian Manhunter too. I actually really like that character, but
Well, look at me shitting on everybody. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Just only like popular superheroes. My bad.
But no, he's not true. But I'll be honest, it didn't work. Putting him in the movie, it was fan service. I get why he did it. I understand. Zack probably knew like this is my one chance to do that. So I'm not upset at him
Hey, Austin,
or anything. But
Austin, from a continuity standpoint, Martian Manhunter makes certain scenes in that movie work on ZSJL.
Not really. At the
Martha
end,
Kent is not 5 minutes away from Lois Lane. Martha Kent is 1,800 miles away. You understand what I'm saying? And she was there to talk to Lois, and then she was there on the farm, right at the farm, right when Superman flew over there a few hours later.
That's all fine. That's.
Go ahead.
You're getting a little garbled there, man.
Yeah,
there you go.
that part's. Yeah, I had a phone call. But no, that's all fine and dandy. So the lowest part, all that I didn't have. But here's the thing: if you're gonna do that, then right, then he needs to show up in the end and be.
Show up and help and try to save the multiverse because the stakes are so high. Yeah, I can get with you on that.
Exactly, because he shows up at the end in the end credits and he goes, "Listen, Darkseid is coming," and I'm like, "Bro, he already tried to come."
Can I give you a counter?
Yeah.
Okay. Just logically, only using the movie logic. I don't know if Force Watch or not, but he would hope that we keep it all in the rules of the movie, right? Right. We know what's Martian Manhunter's powers and what's his weaknesses. Fire, right?
Fire.
If Martian Manhunter goes to the end fight with the rest of them, right? Does he risk being useless anyways?
Yeah, there's that. But also,
I don't know. I'm just asking. I don't know. Right?
Well, but he's obviously going to put his neck.
I'm playing devil's
line
advocate here.
But I mean, it's not uncommon also for like Martian Manhunter to be on
the watchtower or whatever.
To be kind of like the Johnny Come Lately of the Justice League, where it's where he's kind of like the last guy to show up. He's the one who's always in hiding and sort of needs to be sort of encouraged to come to join the team. And of course that's obviously talking about like why he wasn't actively fighting alongside them until that point. I mean, obviously that's a question for like
but Austin's also
what
right
it sets up for what it sets up that we haven't seen.
But mind you,
Austin's also right in that he's talking about. We don't need to see Martian Manhunter necessarily in the very end, but that was because the Green Lantern was going to give the same warning instead.
Yeah, because the Green Lantern scene at the end. I mean, it's not like,
right.
My understanding, it's not like a radically different moment.
So let's just say that Martian Manhunter was doing the stand-in for the Green Lantern since we couldn't get the Green Lantern.
Yeah.
So if Martian Manhunter did what he did in that scene alone, and then Green Lantern showed up in the end, right? That would be consistent with Ryan Choi only showing up in one scene or two scenes and so on and so forth. So you see the next set of the Justice League members kind of on the fringes of the story.
But
Green Lantern was here, the Martian Manhunter was here, the Adam was here. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that Martian Manhunter was actually planted like from BVS, I would say.
That's what Zack says. Yeah.
Because if you think about it, he was Harry Lennox was the Man of Steel. Then he was in BVS, and now and he was going to be in Zack Snyder. Obviously, it was going to be in Zack Snyder Justice League.
Oh, and listen, I this is where I get my tinfoil hat out a little bit, because Zack has said that he did not initially intend for Swanwick to be Martian Man. That was like a fan theory he had seen floating around online. He said, "Oh, this is cool. Let's kind of pick up this football and run with it." If you go back and watch Swanwick and Man of Steel, I think he might be pulling a fast one on us there, because there's so many of the times he's lit in Man of Steel, he has the Matrix green tint on him, and there's also the Superman interrogation scene where he breaks
Throw all our cards on the table, General.
And he walks straight over to the two-way mirror, and Swanwick is the only one who doesn't walk back in terror. So
do you think that it's not the inverse, that Harry Lennox had strong acting, and then Zack said, once BVS was being written and they were moving the story forward, he said, well, look at the acting he did in the scene, and his acting got him retroactively. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that Zack necessarily. I see that you're suggesting that, just like the Broken Moon on Krypton and things like that, that there were certain seeds that were planted, and Martian Manhunter would have been there. I would say, because the writers changed and they didn't know that Man of Steel was going to go into BVS initially, right? That Zack looked back on the movie and said, how can we make this flow into the next one? Again, I'm looking continuity wise. My point of view on this is a little different. You see what I'm saying? So he's looking back saying, how can we get threads to connect? We killed Emil Hamilton, right, off in the first movie, but everybody else from Star Labs and Star Labs itself shows up in the second movie, right? Yeah. And just little things like that. So you see Swanwick not step back. I think that's just Lennox being an actor right there, right? Zack sees that and says, we can do something with that. Then there's that room, like Taladia says, that during writing a BVS or during some point of making BVS, like Zack says, they figured out we can set the whole Justice League up. And where does Martian Manhunter fit in this? Well, maybe he was here the whole time. Maybe he was Swanwick, because Lennox was such a standout. Maybe if Lennox would have made the acting choice to step back like everybody else in that scene, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
It's just like one moment that causes the whole butterfly effect. Yeah.
I'm just you know what I mean? Because I feel like, I'm not saying like, because when you look at how it all looks very planned out, but we know David Goyer wrote it, and it was going to be connected to Green Lantern if it was going to be connected to anything initially, right?
Yeah.
So it ended up being what it is now, which is far better, but
Yeah, that's again, that's kind of one of the big sort of Martian Manhunters, and his implementation in the movie is definitely one of the big sort of rabbit holes that people they can.
But it fits either way you look at it. For the people who don't know the subcontext, it all fits. So
to take it back a little bit to the announcement, when it came out in 2020. Yeah, I'll go put this question out to everybody now, and Anthony sort of answered this a little bit. Like, so kind of everybody can reminisce on like where they were, like how they responded to the announcement. I'm kind of curious for everybody, like as far as like family and friends, and I'm sure a lot of people were sharing the ongoing story of the Snyder Cut campaign with people in their lives, but when you kind of turned around and said, hey, this is happening to people in your life, family, friends, what have you, what was their response, and like how many of them like were kind of following along on this whole journey, and how many people were discovered this once you told them it was happening? I'm just kind of curious for everybody, as far as like people in everybody's personal lives, when you told them this was happening.
Well, for me, I'll go first and get out the way because it's not great. Most of my family and friends did not give a crap whatsoever.
They were following, I take it.
There were maybe 2 friends I had that were interested. The rest though, they could not care less. Like my family, you had to understand where DC was film wise. At least with my family, right? I can't speak to everyone else's, but no one in my family really liked BVS, and they especially didn't like Justice League. So at that point, they were already really checked out. They liked Wonder Woman, right? That was something that they enjoyed. But they were just so checked out at DC at that point. They're there was just so many people I knew in real life that just I don't care, right? I mean, like I said, though, there were a couple that were excited for it, but the majority of people in my life, they're just I do not care,
Well, it's interesting you say that, because even today there's still people that I know are still kind of behind who weren't like following at the time, who are still kind of behind or coming into this very late. And it's like I'll still find myself from time to time like giving people the cliff notes of like how this all happened. And
well, there are some people I know of in my real life, like friends and family, that still don't even know that there is a director's cut of Justice League. They don't even know there's another version still, which blows me away. They still don't.
Well, like William says, they're still playing the theatrical cut on TNT, and
it is. And you know what? People still watch it, which that is also crazy to me.
Yeah. But to kind of share a little bit of my story on that, because who trying to, because there were friends I had who were really really big time into we're big time into CBMs, but not necessarily actively campaigning for this. And a couple in particular where I shared it with them, they're like, "Oh, that's cool," or that's or they weren't expecting it necessarily. I have a couple who were well, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole because that is kind of a bad topic. But I did have, there were people who responded like, "Okay, that'll be interesting." When I told my folks about it, my parents are not in any way, have their minds plugged into the modern CBM scene. So it's like, I had to take them through like all of this to get them up to speed. So they were completely out of the loop on it. But it is interesting still to see that, kind of what you said, RJ, that we'll find people these days who I'll still find myself when I tell them, hey, or I ask them their thoughts on Justice League, and they say, and I clarify, I'm talking about the much longer version of it. And they'll still say, "Oh, I haven't seen that," or they'll say, "I kind of know what that's about, but maybe can you give me some clarification?" And that's gonna. I'll still. It's still a legend that still kind of is expanding, even if post release. So that's that's kind of fascinating to ponder. But everybody else, you go share your thoughts on that.
Sure. So I would say that I think I've mentioned this before, but my whole thing is backwards from you guys, right? So
yeah,
I saw the movie like a year and a half after it came out. I knew when it came out, but all the lead up to it and the release the Snyder cut stuff, I wasn't aware of any of that. I kind of stopped going to the movies to watch the superhero movies anyways. As much as I like them, I was just seeing the same thing over again. I was watching the Marvel movies. The DC movies were disappointing. I saw BVS. I wasn't impressed by it. That half hour kind of made a difference. Also, my perspective on the movie kind of changed after seeing other kind of stuff. And I wasn't excited for like a Shazam or any of that kind of stuff when that was coming out. So I just was kind of on some other stuff. And at some point in, I don't know, like I said, 2022 or so, I decided to I was going to rewatch all the Marvel everything. You get caught up on it, but just see how the whole MCU is.
Yeah.
But before I went on that undertaking, I said, well, let me watch the Justice League movie, and see how it went. So I saw it, and I'm a comic book nerd, Brad. So like when I saw the movie, I was freaking out. And then I went and I watched Ultimate Edition again. I watched Man of Steel, and then so I was seeing all the things that I didn't catch or where it was leading and all that. The continuity stuff I like, right? Yep. So from then on out, I literally right after that I watched the Marvel stuff in chronological order. So I watched it and the TV shows and everything. So I watched all that, and I kind of watched it all back to back in that sense. But I was thoroughly impressed, and I always from then on out, I always tell people how like it's really well made if you watch those three. And what my whole thing is, I'm a 5-movie artist. So as I understand, the story was supposed to be 5 parts, and the way you get let off on Zack Snyder's Justice League is like, where's the rest of that? So that's how I feel about it. And when I show other people and they watch it, that's usually what they come up with when that last 20 minutes of Zack Snyder's Justice League comes up, when they've been invested. I know William says this a lot, like they got us invested in the storyline and then they kind of left us hanging. So it's kind of hard to get us revved up for the new stuff. I think that's where a lot of people are like kind of not so hyped up for a new round of kind of things going on, because they did pretty good, and they did it all under their nose. Hey, there you go.
Who the hell is this guy?
Speak of the devil, and he'll wake up out of his slumber, huh?
All right.
All right, show's over, everyone.
It's just about because I got to jump and do something else real quick here because I rearranged it so we could get Brad on.
Yeah, because like you said, we're doing a bit of a handoff here, and from William to me in just a moment here. So yeah, this is actually kind of the torch being passed from me to William now. So, yeah, really, we really wanted to do something today to to reminisce on just how much this day meant and continues to mean to people in the fandom and it's something that I'll cherish for the rest of my life, and I know so many people will too. So,
hey, Brad, I think some you got a message in the chat just real quick. It's been there for a few minutes. Just, sorry about that.
Oh, no problem, man. Yeah, I'll get that in a second. But yeah, it's been great reminiscing with you guys, and I'm sure William and I'll of course continue talking about it when next on the next proper show. Anybody else got any final thoughts for me before I step out?
Not really. I just like to say this opportunity to thank you for allowing us to come on and to talk about our experiences of the announcement for Zack Snyder's Justice League, because I think this is the first time I was able to express my feelings about it. So,
yeah, glad to hear it, man. So, but yeah, okay, we'll go ahead and hop off here in a second. But yes, glad to kind of go down strip down memory lane with you guys. And yeah, as I said in that initial post I made was, all it took, the world was going to hell, but all it took was that one image to make it one of the happiest days in my life. And I know many people feel the same. So this is a holiday for me as a CBM fan, as a fan of Zack Snyder, as a fan of these characters, and will continue to be for many years to come. So. On that note, jumping off a second, I'll see you guys later, and have a great rest of the stream.
Have a good one, Brad.
There, guys.
All right, yeah, I'm just here to put a bow on it because, like I said, we started a little bit earlier, so it kind of shuffled up the schedule. So, anybody got any questions for me before we wrap it up? I mean,
someone's in the back.
Yeah, I think Nerd is in the back.
Yeah, I think
he's gone. They're gone. There's nobody in the back right now that I can see.
What happened?
Oh no, they probably heard me say we were about to wrap it up. So they came up and got off. So
your story, William?
No, I was watching Chris Wong Swinson. I was on my way to do something else, and I was waiting for it. I had heard that they were going to. I heard rumors that they were probably going to announce it, but like I said, they had made so many, that had happened so many times, and nothing ended up happening. So I was just happening to be listening. Once Cavill jumped on, then I had switched over to Chris Wong Swinson because he was watching it live, and after that, then he kind of knew something because Cavill wouldn't have been there just for a watch long after it. So he released it. Now that was kind of cool. Like I said, it was a different point in the whole deal where, a lot of the conspiracy theories weren't as prevalent, and it was still new. So like I said, we had that little honeymoon period there. So like I said, there's only 2 days I really commemorate, and that's May 20th and March 18th, 2021, the announcement and then the release. So all the other ones, the 214s and all of that stuff, I pretty much just kind of like let go by. But yeah, that was that was just a different time. It was only 4 years ago, but the whole streaming industry has changed for people. I think if it would have been released like today, it would have been a different situation altogether. I think it would have been handled better had it been released today. So what a difference 4 years makes. All right. Now that's my story. Like I said, mainly this was something we wanted to put together just to commemorate, that particular day, because I don't do a lot of like celebration dates like this, but this one's kind of important because it's the main reason why a lot of us even know who each other are. So that's one of the more positive aspects of it. That's why I limited the conversation to that. All the other stuff can, if I ever do want to address that, it can be done on other streams. This one was just basically to let to see how, let people remember how they felt when they got the announcement, on the time, right around the time that which is right about now, the window that it would have been 4 years ago. So the feel good moment, 4th anniversary. Anybody got any last words before I put a nod on it and head back to what I was doing.
What were we doing before this morning? I'm sleeping.
I was sleeping a little bit, but I was taking a nap. But I'm also working on a whole bunch of stuff on. Actually, if you can see my screen right now, I got a whole bunch of stuff going on. So usually Monday afternoon, Monday mornings, I'm pretty much doing everything but YouTube. All right, guys.
All right.
Thanks
Good
for being here.
Good
Like,
talk to everybody.
subscribe.
Get your try.
Spread the word about the channel. And I will. Usually Monday, I take Mondays off. But like I said, unless there's something breaking news, anything like that, I don't think there's going to be anything breaking news or something worthy to speak on. Probably see you guys tomorrow at about 11.
Sounds good.
All right then. Take care, man.
All right, guys. Thank you for being here. All right.
Later, man.